Move, kid, or I'll break your damn neck. Officer Frank Malone's voice was a snarl, his thick fingers clamping around the throat of 19-year-old Jamal Ellis, slamming him against the chipped stucco wall outside Rosario's diner on Sycamore Avenue. The afternoon sun blazed down, casting sharp shadows across the bustling street, where cars hummed and pedestrians glanced warily. Malone's eyes burned with contempt, his grip unyielding. His partner, Officer Tony Russo, leaned against their cruiser a few feet away, arms crossed, a smirk playing on his lips as he watched the scene unfold. "I ain't doing nothing," Jamal choked out his voice, strained hands raised but trembling. The paper bag in his grip takeout from the diner crinkled as he struggled to keep it from falling. His sneakers scraped the pavement, the air thick with the scent of fried food and summer heat. Jamal's pulse hammered, fear and fury warring in his chest as Malone's grip tightened. "Don't lie to me, boy," Malone spat, his face inches from Jamal's sweat beading on his reddened cheeks. "We saw you skulking around back there, eyeing the place like you were casing it. You think you can pull that crap in my town?" Jamal's eyes darted to Russo, hoping for a shred of reason, but Russo just chuckled, shaking his head. "Kid's got that guilty look, Frank. Probably got a rap sheet longer than my arm. What's in the bag? Stolen goods, drugs. It's just food." Jamal's voice cracked, desperation creeping in. "I was waiting for my ride. I got a receipt, check it." He gestured toward the bag, but Malone shoved him harder against the wall, the stucco biting into his back. "Receipt? You think I'm stupid?" Malone's laugh was harsh, his free hand yanking the bag from Jamal's grip and tossing it to the ground. Burgers and fries spilled across the sidewalk, the paper fluttering in the breeze. "You people always got an excuse. Turn around, hands behind your back. Now." Jamal's breath hitched, his mind racing. He knew this script, had heard it from friends, seen it in videos, felt its shadow his whole life. A wrong move, a wrong word, and this could end in cuffs, a cell, or worse. His father's voice echoed in his head. "Stay calm, son. Don't give them a reason." But how do you stay calm with a hand on your throat, with eyes that see you as less than human? "I'm not resisting," Jamal said, forcing his voice steady, though his legs felt like jelly. "Please just call my dad. He'll tell you who I am." "His name's Victor Ellis." Malone's grip faltered for a split second, his eyes narrowing. "Victor Ellis. What you think dropping a name's gonna save you? I don't care if your dad's the mayor. You're going down." But there was a flicker of doubt in his voice, a crack in his bravado. Russo stepped closer, his smirk fading. "Ellis? Ain't that the inspector guy? The one always on the news?" He glanced at Malone, uncertainty creeping into his tone. Malone snorted, but his grip loosened slightly. "Don't matter. Kid's still a punk. Let's book him and sort it out later." Before Jamal could speak, a deep, commanding voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Take your hands off my son. Right now." The man who stepped into the sunlight was a towering figure, his navy suit impeccable, despite the afternoon heat, his presence radiating authority. Victor Ellis, 45, was a legend in Norfolk, Virginia, an inspector with the state police, a man who'd risen from beat cop to one of the most powerful law enforcement figures in the region. His dark eyes locked onto Malone, and the air seemed to thicken the street's noise, fading to a distant hum. Jamal's shoulders sagged, relief flooding him, though he didn't dare move. "Dad?" Malone froze, his hand still on Jamal's neck, but his face paled as he registered Victor's badge clipped to his belt, glinting under the sun. Russo's arms dropped, his smirk gone, replaced by a nervous twitch. "You deaf officer." Victor's voice was low, each word precise, carrying the weight of someone who'd faced down worse than this and come out on top. "I said let him go." Malone's hand fell away and Jamal stumbled back, rubbing his neck, his breath coming in shaky gasps. Malone straightened, trying to regain his footing, but his voice betrayed him, cracking slightly. We got a call about suspicious activity. Your kid was lurking out here, looked like he was up to no good." "Suspicious?" Victor's laugh was cold, devoid of humor. "My son was picking up lunch. You call that suspicious? Or is it just his skin that set you off?" Russo shifted his eyes, darting to the growing crowd, diners peering through Rosario's windows, a few passers-by slowing to watch, phones already out. "Look, Inspector, we didn't know he was your kid. Just doing our job. Your job." Victor stepped closer, his gaze never leaving Malone. Your job is to protect this community, not terrorize it. You put your hands on my son without cause. You threw his food on the ground like he's nothing. You think that's your job, because I promise you it's not. Malone's jaw clenched, his face a mix of defiance and fear. We got protocols, Ellis. You know how it is. Kid matched the description. Save it. Victor snapped, his voice cutting through Malone's excuse like a knife. He pulled out his phone, the camera light blinking red. This is live to my server. Every word, every move. You want to keep digging this hole, or you want to walk away while you still got badges? The crowd murmured, phones now openly recording the weight of a dozen eyes pressing down on the officers. Malone's hands balled into fists, but Russo grabbed his arm, muttering, Frank, let's go. This ain't worth it. Malone hesitated, his eyes locked on Victor's, a silent challenge. Then, with a curse under his breath, he turned, stalking back to the cruiser. Russo followed, casting a wary glance at Victor before climbing in. The engine roared and the cruiser sped off, leaving Jamal's spilled food on the sidewalk and a crowd buzzing with whispers. Victor turned to Jamal, his face softening, but his eyes still burning. You okay, son? Jamal nodded, though his hands shook as he bent to pick up the crumpled bag. Yeah. I didn't do nothing, Dad. I swear. I know, Victor said, resting a hand on his shoulder. I know. Come on, let's get you home. As they walked down Sycamore Avenue, the weight of the encounter settled over Jamal like a lead blanket. He was safe for now. But the memory of Malone's hand on his throat, the venom in his voice, told him this wasn't over. Not for him, and not for his father. The Ellis home was a sturdy brick colonial on the outskirts of Norfolk, a place that spoke of hard-earned stability. Inside it was warm, lived in with shelves of books and family photos. A young Jamal at a science fair, Victor in his academy uniform, his wife Lorraine beaming at a charity gala. Lorraine was in the kitchen when they walked in, chopping vegetables for dinner, her nurse's scrubs still on. Her smile faded as she caught their expressions. Jamal, Victor. Her voice sharpened, maternal instinct kicking in. What happened? Jamal hesitated, but Victor recounted the incident in clipped, precise detail, his tone steady but laced with barely contained rage. By the time he finished, Lorraine's hands were clenched, her eyes glistening with tears and fury. Those sons of she caught herself glancing at Jamal, then pulled him into a fierce hug. You're okay, baby. You're okay. I'm fine, Mom. Jamal mumbled, though the words felt like a lie. He wasn't fine. The fear, the humiliation, it clung to him, heavy and raw. Lorraine turned to Victor, her voice low but fierce. You're not letting this go, Victor. Those two, Malone and Russo, they've been trouble for years. You know the stories. They've got no business wearing badges. I'm handling it, Victor said, his tone leaving no room for doubt. I've got oxide video. I'm meeting with the chief tomorrow and I'll file a complaint with Internal Affairs. This isn't their first time, Lorraine. They've got a trail of complaints, excessive force, racial bias. This time they picked the wrong fight. Jamal frowned, sinking into a chair. A trail. What do you mean? Victor sighed, sitting across from him, his hands clasped. Malone's been written up at least 3 times beating a kid during a stop, intimidating witnesses. Never stuck, but it's there. Russo's his lapdog, newer, but just as bad. They target kids like you, Jamal Black Brown, anyone they think won't push back. It's a game to them. Power. Jamal's stomach churned, the weight of it sinking in. Why are they still out there then? If people know, Victor's jaw tightened, a muscle ticking, because the system's built to protect them. Cops watch each other's backs. Complaints get buried, witnesses back off. But not this time. They touched my son. That's their mistake. Lorraine nodded, her eyes fierce. You make them pay, Victor. For Jamal. For every kid they've hurt. I will, Victor promised. But as he met Jamal's gaze, there was a flicker of something else, worry. Not for himself, but for what this fight might cost his family. That night, Jamal lay awake in his room, the afternoon's heat lingering, the glow of his phone, casting shadows across the ceiling. He replayed the encounter, the chokehold, the spilled food, the crowd stares. He thought of his father, a man who'd clawed his way to respect in a world that didn't always give it, now gearing up for a war. Jamal wasn't sure they could win. He wasn't a kid anymore, not after today. He was a target. and that truth burned. The next morning, Victor was gone before Jamal woke, leaving a note on the kitchen counter. Meeting with Chief. Stay home today. Call me if you need anything. Dad. Jamal stared at it, his cereal untouched, the words blurring. Stay home. Like he was fragile. Like he couldn't face the world. But the truth was, he didn't want to go out. Not yet. The thought of passing Rosario's diner, of seeing that cruiser again, made his chest tighten. He busied himself with college work, his laptop open to a coding assignment for his computer science class, but his focus was shot. His mind kept drifting to his friends' stories of cop stops, to the videos online, to the way Malone's eyes had gleamed with hate. He'd always known the world wasn't fair, but it had never felt this personal, this raw. His phone buzzed with a text from his best friend Trey. Yo, heard what went down. You good wanna hang Jamal? Typed back, I'm cool, just chilling. Catch you later. But he wasn't cool. He was angry, scared, and something else, a restless energy that made him want to do something, though he didn't know what. When Victor returned that evening, his face was a mask of determination, though his eyes were tired. He gathered Jamal and Lorraine at the dining table, his laptop open to a draft of the complaint he'd filed. It's done, he said, his voice steady. Complaints with internal affairs. I met with Chief Daniels and he's launching an investigation. The video's with the DA's office, and I've got a contact at the Virginian pilot who's running a story. This is going public. Jamal's eyes widened. Public, Dad? What if they come after us? They won't, Victor said, though his tone held a trace of caution. They know I've got leverage. Malone and Russo aren't stupid. They'll keep their distance. But if they try anything, it'll only make this worse for them. Lorraine crossed her arms, her voice sharp. You trust Daniels to do the right thing? After all the times he's looked the other way, Victor rubbed his temples, exhaling. I don't trust him, but Daniels wants to run for mayor, and he knows a scandal like this could sink him. He'll push the investigation to save face. With the video, they can't bury it. Jamal traced the edge of the table, his voice quiet. What if they don't get fired? What if they just get a warning or something? Victor reached over, gripping his shoulder. Then we keep fighting. We don't stop until they're gone. I promise you, Jamal. But as weeks passed, Jamal began to doubt promises could hold against a system that seemed rigged. The investigation crawled a maze of bureaucracy that frayed everyone's nerves. Victor kept Jamal updated, witness statements, body cam reviews, endless meetings, but the lack of progress gnawed at them. Malone and Russo were on paid leave, a fact that stung every time Jamal saw their cruiser still circling the neighborhood, their faces smug behind tinted windows. Then the story broke. The Virginian pilot ran a front-page feature with stills from Victor's video and Jamal's account in stark detail. The headline was a gut punch: teen choked by police. A pattern of abuse, social media exploded. Chalky justice for Jamal trending across Virginia, with protests outside the precinct and activists amplifying the story. Victor worked tirelessly, meeting with reporters, rallying community leaders, building a case that couldn't be ignored. But the spotlight brought shadows. Jamal's phone lit up with messages, some supportive, others hateful. Anonymous accounts called him a thug, a liar, worse. One text from a block number read, "You and your dad better watch it, kid." He showed it to Victor, who filed it with the police, but the threat lingered, a cold weight in Jamal's gut. At college, the stares were relentless. Classmates whispered, professors tiptoed around him, offering extensions he didn't want. Trey tried to keep things light, dragging him to basketball courts or late-night diner runs, but even that felt hollow, the investigation's shadow inescapable. One sleepless night, Jamal found Victor at the dining table, surrounded by files, his coffee cold. Victor looked up, offering a tired smile. Can't sleep, Jamal shook his head, sitting across from him. Just thinking about everything. Victor nodded, leaning back. It's heavy. I know. Dad. Jamal's voice was small, hesitant. What if we lose? What if they walk? Victor's gaze softened, but his words were firm. We won't lose. Not really. Even if they don't get fired, we're exposing them. The system. That's a victory, Jamal. It's not perfect, but it's real. Jamal frowned, unconvinced. Doesn't feel like enough. It's not, Victor admitted, but it's a start. Change is a grind, son. Every day we fight for it, for you, for your friends, for the ones who didn't make it home. We don't get to quit. Jamal's throat tightened and he looked away, blinking hard. I just want it to be done." "Me too," Victor said softly. "Me too." The hearing came 3 months later, a tense closed-door session at Norfolk's police headquarters. Victor had prepped Jamal for weeks, running through questions, teaching him to stay calm under scrutiny. Jamal would testify before a review board, 5 members including 3 senior officers, a civilian rep and a city attorney, while Victor presented the video witness accounts and a stack of prior complaints against Malone and Russo. The officers had a union lawyer, a slick veteran, known for shielding cops. On the morning of the hearing, Jamal stood before his mirror, adjusting his tie, his reflection older than his 19 years. Victor knocked already in his suit, his face unreadable, but steady. "Ready?" he asked. Jamal nodded, though his stomach churned. "Ready." The hearing room was stark fluorescent lights buzzing the air, thick with tension. Victor's presentation was surgical, laying out the incident's timeline, the officer's history, the trauma to Jamal. The video played Malone's snarl, echoing his hand on Jamal's throat, frozen on the screen. Jamal's testimony followed. He sat at the table, hands clasped, voice steady, despite the weight of the room. He recounted every detail: the chokehold, the spilled food, the fear. When the union lawyer pressed him, suggesting he'd been aggressive, Jamal didn't waver. "I was scared," he said, eyes locked on the lawyer's. "I was just waiting for my ride, and they treated me like a criminal for no reason. I didn't do anything. They did." Victor's hand brushed his under the table, a silent, "Well done." Malone and Russo testified last, their stories polished, their tones rehearsed. Malone claimed he'd followed protocol, responding to a vague call about suspicious behavior. Russo backed him, saying Jamal seemed evasive. Neither apologized, though Malone's eyes flicked to Jamal, a glint of defiance lingering. The board deliberated for a week each day, stretching Jamal's nerves thin. When the verdict came, Victor called him and Lorraine to the living room, his face calm but his eyes alive. "They're done," he said. "Fired, effective immediately." Jamal's breath caught relief crashing over him. For real," Victor said, a rare grin breaking through. "The board ruled they violated policy, excessive force, racial bias, failure to de-escalate. The video sealed it. They had no defense." Lorraine hugged Jamal, tears streaming. "Thank God. Thank you, Victor." Jamal's relief was bittersweet, his mind still churning. "What's next for them?" Victor's grin faded. "They're out, but they might appeal. The union could fight it. They'll likely find work elsewhere, security, another department out of state. That's the game. But they're finished here. Their records are marked." Jamal nodded, processing. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was something, a step, a signal. That night, the Ellises celebrated quietly, just the 3 of them, with Lorraine's peach cobbler and laughter that felt like a release. Outside, Sycamore Avenue shimmered in the evening light. Not safe, not perfect, but home. Jamal knew the fight wasn't over, not for him, not for Victor, not for their community, but for now they'd won, and that was enough.